Hey everyone, it is me, Mr. Peets. This is going to be our third lesson on the word design project. Right now, at this point, you should have the words, and then you did the first lesson. The second lesson was putting the lines around it like you did, messing around with the thickness and the colors and all those kinds of things. So, for the end result of this, I just want you guys to do just a few things. It'll be very, very quick, and then we could say that this project is finished. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to change the background. And so again, I'm just going to double tap, and I'll go to background. And then I'm going to go over here to gradient. And then I'd like to choose a gradient. You could see that there's different types of gradients here. There's the gray tones area, that those are radial, which means that it goes from light to dark, from the center to the outside. Then you have radial gradient again, but in color. And then here you have a regular gradient that goes from light to dark, from top to bottom. I'm going to choose that. You can choose any one of these that you want. You might want to choose something colorful. So I would say either this row or this row here. If you want to have a gray background, then you can choose any of these. That's totally fine with me, as long as I'm able to read your word. That's really important. You want to make sure that it's easily understood. So I'm going to choose this blue one since I have a blue background here. I'm going to choose this blue one. And then I have a gradient that goes from light to middle to dark. And now I'm pretty happy with that. You can clearly see my word. I have a lot of really good complementary colors here. So that's the first thing you're going to do, is you're going to change your background to a gradient. Okay, that's one. The second thing you're going to do is notice that you have this shape that goes all the way around, and then you have another shape. You probably have two or three of these. You're only going to do the last couple of lines. So I'm going to highlight my most outer lines. These two are my most outer lines, so I'm going to hold shift and click that. So now I have this outer line and this outer line are both highlighted. And then I'm going to go over here. It says line dash. I'm going to look at those. And I can choose any one of these. Right now I just have a solid line. But let's say I choose the dots, then I get like a series of dotted lines. And when I click off, you can see that those are now just dots that are surrounding it. And then I'm going to choose just one other one. And I'm going to do the same thing. Maybe I'll do some dashes. Okay, so then if I click off of it, then I could see those are dashed lines, and it just gives it a little bit more variety. All right, so those are the only changes that I want you to do with your word. All right, and I will be looking to see dots and dashes as an indication that you worked on this. And I'm also going to look to see that you did a gradient. Okay, those I will require. Whichever type of gradient you want, but I do want you to put a gradient in. Okay, now the last thing I want you to do, and this is optional. All right, I don't want you to you don't have to do this, but I'll show you how to do it anyway. Is with your parents' permission, and if you have a printer that works, I'll show you how to print this. So you're going to come over here, and then there's this like little print icon. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. Okay. And then I have my printer set up, so that's my destination. And then here you could preview what it's going to look like when it prints out. Now I can change this up a little bit by going to more settings, okay? And then I can go over here to scale. Mine is custom. I can have it fit to paper. So if I click that, you could see that it blows up, and it's going to be about the size of the paper if I try to print it out. I can also go to fit to printable area, and that will just make it so that it's got a little bit of bleeding space around your print. The other thing you could do is, if I go back to default, I can go to custom, and then a little number pops up. Right now that is at a 100%. So I can lower it to make it smaller. So you can see that it's getting smaller and smaller. Or I can type in a number that's 100, or I can go up. And as I hit the up button, it gets larger and larger. So you guys can decide how you want to print that, what size you want to print it. I think if I were to choose to do this, I would probably fit to printable area. That's just my personal preference. All right. It makes the word nice and big. Okay. If you have the ability to print this out, again, this is optional. You do not have to do this part. Print it out, and with your parents' permission, you should tape it onto your front window where people who are walking can see your word. All right, and then all around Clark, all the middle school students will have love, hope, heal, all those words that you have, and then you can put that on, and then as people are walking by, they'll see your word, and I think that could be really, really cool. Again, that is totally optional, and if you choose to do that, just please make sure that your parents are aware of that. Alrighty, that, and then just go ahead and print that, and then you know how to print a piece of paper. Okay, so that is all your project's going to be. At this point, you are allowed to turn it in, so please go ahead and turn that in, and then I will be grading this as they turn in. All right, and then you can see the update on Genesis. Um, all right, I will talk to you later and have a really good weekend.